we're going to reboot our Renegade Products podcast. And we wanted to start off with one of our favorite polishers, but he couldn't make it.
Wow.
But we do have Pieter Williams from Almost Chrome and Nashville Shine Supply.
Wow.
So we go back with Almost Chrome actually from the beginning of time of really the whole Renegade
Beginning of
movement.
Renegade, yeah.
Yeah, the whole Renegade movement. Pieter was there way at the beginning at the Revolution.
Yeah, back in the BRP days. BRPS days.
Expand upon BRPS.
Big Rig Polishing Supplies.
Oh, that's right.
Yes,
Yeah, you guys might not know actually our first name out of the box because we were such geniuses. It was Big Rig Polishing Supplies, known also as Big Rig Supplies.
Yeah.
Which is just Big Rig Polishing Supplies, which became like, oh, do you guys polish? And we're like, no, we don't polish. We're a supplier.
We're a supplier, so
then you guys have a dumb name, and so we changed it to Renegade.
Yeah, which I mean, hindsight, I think that was probably a pretty good move.
Yeah,
I
think so. Yeah, so that was
brand recognition has been, I think, quite a bit better.
So we started off as Big Rig Polishing Supplies in 15, maybe, and I think it was at the end of 15 that we changed it to Renegade. 14 and
9 years ago? It's been 9 years,
like
so it's
that,
2023. Yeah. Louisville. So Louisville this year is 2023, so it'd probably be 12 or
something like
12
that.
12 or 13.
Yeah. So we met Pieter Williams.
Or 14. No, 14.
Yeah, I think it was 14. Because I didn't meet you till 16, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
We didn't actually meet until a couple years after.
No, it was 50. It was Waupun 15.
Yeah, that's right.
Waupun 2015 is when I met Pieter Williams.
That's right, because I was up there that year.
Yes.
Helping out, getting trucks ready for that show, and you were there that year. So that's the first time we met. So that was a year after.
That's right. And I think I was actually technically really even my first truck show, to be honest with you. Big Rig truck show, that is.
Yeah, I think it was.
And then of course, here we are.
Yeah.
Whatever.
9 years later. 8 years later. 9 years later.
Growing. Thank you everybody out there for the support and the love. So I met Pieter Williams back in at Waupun 2015, and it was like love at first sight.
Was it though?
It sure was. Gemini to Gemini. We understood. I could look in his eyes, and I knew there was some depth there. And like here we are. Still not like, hey, don't get me wrong. Like any relationship, we've had our ups and downs.
Ups and downs. Yes.
Yes.
We've had ups. We've had downs. This trip, man, has been like really cool because, I think right out of the gate, this trip we've had a lot of just great conversations ranging from almost everything, not just business, and I've gotten a much better understanding of who you are as a person. I hope you've gotten a better understanding of who I am, or at least who I am now versus who I was then, and where I'm going, and I understand where you're going now a little bit. This has been a great trip this time.
I've always had a strong affiliation and affection for Pieter, and and again, we jokingly said a few minutes ago about our like any relationship, it's never going to be perfect all the time. No. And if it ever is, there's something really wrong, to be honest with you.
Either that or someone's lying.
Something like that, yeah. But I've grown accustomed over the years to dealing with female influencers, and Pieter's very much like one of the female influencers. So I have a high tolerance for pain, and therefore that's why we are still going strong.
Are you saying I'm moody?
After all these years.
I'm moody.
You're not moody, no, you're just peculiar sometimes, but that's okay.
I am peculiar. Yeah. I will give you that. I'm a weird person. So,
and that's why we love you.
I think it's a lot of times it has to do with the polishing dust, I think.
It must be something.
Something you put in the compound that just kind of makes the brain go wonky.
I think so. So we talked about a lot of things. One of the things for Pieter that was important to me on his trip out here was, and as an accomplished polisher for how many, 20 years now?
21.
21 years
just over
of
21
metal
years.
polishing. So he's like, he's got his trade down, and he knows what he's doing. He can look at something and say, here's what I'm going to do, and here's how I'm going to do it. And, it's important for, not that I'm plugging Renegade products on this, although I am, is to try to, from our perspective, to bring to the community more than just a cash register. Honestly,
well, and
that's why bringing Pieter out here to take a look at some of our new products and how they work, and to be able to R&D them and work with them together and have them understand the technology of what those products are,
Right,
and
what
how they
goes
work.
into them, and that's been a big
Right.
thing. Like we talked yesterday a little bit out there at the work table about like you as a manufacturer and a supplier, you have your focus group of polishers that you like for us to test out the products. So you send us the products out, and sometimes it's hard. Like I told you, it's hard for us in the field to test products sometimes because we've got so much going on and we're so busy. So being able to be here, my mind is, I have nowhere to go. So this is like being in the lab for me, and knowing how the products are made, what's in the products, and settling down, and I get to go, okay, if that's what this product is supposed to do, then I'm going to do it like this, and let's test this out. So I mean, it's been, and we've done this before, but it's just been different this time.
Yeah, I think we, just like any organization that's growing and thriving, we just find like better ways of doing things. And
Right.
what you saw this trip out was like a more focused method of addressing, how are we like delivering the message, honestly,
Right.
because we do want the pros to appreciate the product, because obviously if the pros don't like it, then like we want to make sure that it's top quality stuff. So we
Right.
always send it to the pros first to make sure these guys can, sign off on it. But also, I think what you saw on this trip is our perspectives. Like, we love our pros, and we definitely want to make sure that they're getting the highest quality possible product and the most effective and cost efficient products.
Right.
But we also want to make sure, and that's where you saw me pivoting a lot in this trip. So I want to make sure that for every one pro, there's like whatever 100 or 1,000.
There's a lot of hobbyists, a lot of new guys getting
do-it-yourselfers, that kind of stuff. And so our perspective was like, okay, I understand, Peter, that like as a pro, you like this, but like, can we just pivot and make sure we're addressing
Right.
the narrative for the person that is not doing it for a
Right.
living?
Well, one of the things that I thought was really cool about this is that coming out here this time, you had a list of questions from your viewers, from your followers,
Yes.
your social media accounts. You had a list of just a litany of questions, and a lot of them. Sorry, guys, we didn't get to all of them. I'm coming back.
Yes, sir.
And we'll get to more of them. But I mean, that was what was really cool was. I mean, you get questions from guys like me and some of the other pros that Renegade is involved with.
Sure.
And you get questions from us all day long, and that's fine. And you know how to handle our questions. You get some of these questions from the weekend warrior guys, the new people, just the hobbyist polishers, or people that are even thinking about it. You get some of those questions. Even you guys are going, how do we answer that? And
Yeah.
so having that list of questions to focus on the media that we did this week was really cool.
Yeah,
and
that's what
that
we
kind
wanted
of
to
helped
do.
me to step back out of my comfort zone, to get out of my comfort zone to, okay, well, yeah, like you gave me one question and I was like, I wouldn't even have thought to ask that. And I've been doing it 20 years and I wouldn't have thought to ask that.
Yeah.
Now I have to think of it. So
Yeah.
it helps me to, it pushes me to think about a different process. So,
Yeah, 100%. Again, we love our pros, but we want to make sure that the individuals reaching out to us, and keep your DMs and your messages
Yeah.
and your emails. Just send us, your questions, because we want to make sure we address more and more of those, other than beyond just the how-to. It's also the how-to, but also addressing the questions.
right, addressing the questions.
Yeah.
And also if there's, other things that, some of the viewers see or that they want a little bit more of an explanation on, send those in too. Like, hey, we want to see something like this. What do the viewers want to see us do?
100%. I'm going to pivot on you a little bit. I know we talked earlier that Peter's been polishing for 21 years now. An accomplished, definitely an accomplished professional in the field, very well known within the bus scene, the trucking scene. Although, real quick before I get to my question, your forte is really primarily the buses. Is that
Yes,
correct? Tell us a little bit of what that is, and as compared to, for example, the big rig folks.
So my biggest thing is entertainer buses, luxury motorhomes, the Prevost buses, the all stainless steel sides. I've been polishing those buses for. I've been working in the bus industry all 21 years.
So that's where you started?
That's where I
in buses?
started.
Uh-huh.
I started in buses. And actually, I started out to be just a mobile detailer.
I was going to ask you, how did you decide
Yeah.
to pick up a grinder?
I started out as a mobile detailer. Had just a beat up old pickup truck and a little 5x8 trailer with a small tank and generator. Called a friend of mine. I said, I'm not at my full-time job anymore. I decided to start my detailing business, and he said, good, go out to the Prevost lot out here in Nashville and polish my bus wheels. All right. What? He said, the
So you didn't
aluminum.
know anything
I
about
had
polishing?
no idea.
So
I
your
didn't even,
customer-
at that point, I didn't even know you could polish aluminum.
Okay.
So I
That
was
wasn't even on your radar.
not at all. So I went to my supplier at the time, my detail supplier at the time, and I said, hey, I got this guy who wants me to polish his aluminum wheels. What do I do? And they said, we don't know. Here's a bottle of cheap, liquid metal polish and a wool paint buffing pad. Have a nice day. And
That's like
So
on-the-job training right
that
there. Huh?
was, man, and I'm telling you what, it took about 7 hours to do that first set of wheels. It was obnoxious. And after that 7 hours, I had something that resembled 6 shiny wheels. I don't want to say they were, but I had 4 other bus drivers that day at that facility watching me, and they all came up and like, you want to do mine next? You want to do mine next? And I'm like, guys, I don't know what I'm doing. And they said, we don't care. We're just happy to see somebody in Nashville willing to do it. Okay.
So what's the scene like back then? Like, back when, Jesus was, in a show bus. Like, is like nobody really polished? Is like, was just that not part of the scene?
In Nashville, no. I mean, there really wasn't anybody. There was people washing buses and
But nobody really
cleaning the
taking care of the-
interiors
no
for the
metal
artists.
maintenance is
There
what
was
you're
no
saying.
metal maintenance. There was no paint maintenance. So, I kind of stepped in, and after that first day, I haven't detailed a car since.
Now, why did you choose just to go down the road of just polishing? Because you were originally a detailer. Why did you not just include that as part of your offering?
We did for the longest time. I started washing buses and polishing wheels, and then my wife at the time, she decided, she wanted to work some too, so got her cleaning the interiors on the buses, and we did that for a long time, and then we kept having children, so that kind of ended her bus interior cleaning career, you know. But
I could see that.
I mean, I was doing wheel polishing, bus washes. I was even, getting the tree limb scratches out of the top sections of the paint. I did that for a long time, and it wasn't until 2 years into my career in buses that I finally learned how to polish stainless. And time went by, and at that time there was 12 or 13 bus leasing companies in Nashville, plus Prevost, and I was doing the metal polishing for at least 10 of them. So I just had to phase out the detailing.
You were just
portion.
too busy, basically.
I was too busy doing metal work.
So you started off with liquid metal polish and steel wool, and at what point did you decide I need to pick up a grinder? Like, how did that come about?
About 2 months after I started this, I got a call from another bus repair shop. They had a piece of diamond plate, and I said, "Okay, I'll come out and do it." Sure. I've been polishing these bus wheels up for a couple of months now.
Yeah, so after a couple months, you felt like you were getting a much better shine, I would imagine?
Yeah, I was learning how to use the wool paint pad and the liquid polish, and I kind of got a little process down with that.
With like an orbital sander, or just still all by
No,
hand?
it's still a rotary.
Still a rotary. Okay.
Still on a rotary buffer. So I show up to this other bus lot to do this diamond plate toolbox under a straight truck, under a delivery truck. It didn't work. It did not work at all. I'm wiping the polish on. I'm trying to buff it off. The guy comes out. The guy who called me to do the job. He comes out just laughing. He's holding this big grinder with this disc and this brick of, I didn't know what it was. He plugged into my cord, just looking at me the whole time. Started it up, loaded his buff up, and then just staring at me. He wasn't even looking at the toolbox, just staring at me.
No shit.
He stopped, did a little section. He stopped, looked at me, said, "That was a lot easier, wasn't it?" I was like, Yeah.
So that was your first grinding experience.
That was my first experience with an actual metal polishing buff and a compound
So
bar.
this would be like 19 years ago or something like. Was that like?
No, this was 21 years ago. This was only 2 months after I started.
So this is like pre-YouTube, basically. It's
Oh,
like, it really wasn't
Lord,
even like,
yeah.
it's not like you can hop online and say, how do I do this? For you folks that are lucky out there in today's social media world, you get to view all of this.
This was pre-YouTube, pre-Google search. This was...
And everything was so black and white back then.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, this was, the Andy Griffith days, if you want to go, if you want to call it that.
Dang.
But so I had to just scrounge around and search for a supplier for this stuff.
You kind of had to figure that shit out almost from scratch, huh?
Yeah, dude, yeah. So I finally found some that day. I went and bought like $1,000 worth of stuff. My wife almost killed me when I got home.
Oh, wow.
And I get back to the lot to do this job, and I said, "Okay, now how do I use all this stuff?" He said, "You're the polisher. Figure it out." I'm like, I just heard that 2 months ago from my buddy,
Wow.
So I,
that's just so bizarre. Like you think about today's world, where like people just can really go down to even a Harbor Freight and buy like a real rudimentary grinder and hop on YouTube or Instagram or any really like find polishers and say, "Can I talk to you for a minute?"
Right.
Like you really didn't have anywhere like it's not that you can
that.
There isn't the polishers directory in the yellow pages or something like that.
We didn't even have. I mean, we had Facebook. No, well, actually, no. That was more back in the days of. I hate to say this. MySpace.
Dude, that was even before Facebook.
Dude. Yeah, that was before. That was in the days of MySpace.
What year was that?
2002.
Yeah, that's
my first year.
That was kind of early Facebook.
Early Facebook, but yeah, MySpace was more prominent.
That's back when Facebook was used for what it was intended to be. Look for ex-girlfriends.
Yep, pretty much, just stalk ex-girlfriends.
Yep.
So, but yeah, I didn't really have anyone to, look up to or teach me. I just had to figure it out for myself.
Figure it out on your own, huh?
So I did, figured out a process and just kept on doing it.
And you're known in the trade, within the scene, within the community, as like one of the premier experts on stainless, and that's courtesy of all the buses that you work on, I would imagine. Then,
correct.
Huh? Are you not a fan of aluminum, or you do that too?
I do aluminum, and I didn't do aluminum for the longest time, other than the wheels on the buses. Like, you couldn't get me to touch a big rig there for, I don't know, first 12 years of my career. I wanted nothing to do with a big rig.
Really?
Give me a bus all day long. Big rig? No, I'm good. Have a nice day. There's definitely a different process between aluminum and stainless steel.
For sure, yeah.
Very much different processes. And, the compounds are different. The buffs are different.
Cut rates are different.
The cut rates are different. Even sometimes the RPM ranges are different. But one of the things that I learned about stainless, and this is a question that I get all the time. I get people from all over that will message me, man, I'm having problems with this stainless. What do I do? I don't want to heat it up too much. I don't want to turn it blue. I don't want to warp it. Stainless, contrary to popular belief, stainless needs heat. It needs a fair amount of heat to do. And I think especially a lot of big rig polishers would reach out to me to get help on stainless because they see what I do on the buses.
Sure.
Which is fine. That's great. I never had a problem answering those questions. The difference is though, the buses, it's still stainless steel, but the technique is different there because the bus panels are glued on. There's nowhere for the heat to dissipate. Stainless needs heat, but that heat's also got to go away pretty quickly. So, like with big rig air breathers, stainless visors, things like that, I mean, you can plate really high RPM machines and just buff the living crap out of those parts. You're not gonna turn them blue. You're not gonna warp them because you're putting heat on it, but that heat also dissipates. It goes away.
Does that make it an easier polish job on big rigs versus the Prevos?
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
it's like it's a more forgiving process. Like if you
on a big rig, it is.
Yeah. Okay.
It's definitely a more forgiving process. With the Prevo buses, there's a certain number one, there's a certain finish that you have to put in those buses. They're 45 feet long. So you have to finish them horizontally. Because if you finish them vertically, it's not going to end well. You know, you don't want to look at a vertically finished Prevost, and you don't want to use like a wool pad or even an orbital on the stainless finishes for a Prevost. You want to use, you know, I use the UBM buffs, always have, but there's a certain horizontal linear pattern, so it takes a while to learn those. Whereas with a big rig, a breather, and plus Prevost is 45 feet straight.
So you can see like the whole line.
You see the
you can see the whole
thing. Whereas a big rig breather is rounded, man. You can hide all.
You're only seeing a certain section at a time of the breather.
Right, you're walking around the breather, and all you're seeing is a shine. So I mean, it's definitely different. It's a little trickier to figure out the Prevost panels.
So you got into the big rigs like halfway through your career, maybe, or something?
A little more than halfway through.
Halfway through. I've seen you do
about 8 years ago, 9 years ago.
I've seen you do forged wheels. I've seen you do engine parts. I've seen you see turbos cast.
Yep.
So you basically was it a decision to diversify, or you're just like, okay, you know what? Let me see if I can do this. How did what made you to go beyond the buses?
What made me go beyond the buses was learning how to polish big rigs to basically help a friend out, learning how to polish big rigs, and then that turned into a need for a local company, local to me, for, I don't know, do you want me to mention them? Semi-casual? Fitzgerald?
Yeah, you can mention
okay. So that turned into, a need. Pieter, or Fitzgerald glider kits at the time, now semi-casual, had a need for polishing. You know, they needed some trucks polished.
On the rigs,
and so they called around to, some other guys out of the area, and, my name was brought up. Pete's right there in Nashville.
Pete's
give him a
close
call.
To you.
So we ran out there. It's only about a 2-hour drive from my, my shop, and we ran out there and worked on some of their trucks, and then worked on more of their trucks, and then worked on these trucks, and then it just kind of boomed into, well, great, now we're into big rigs.
Right.
And then we got into doing the show big rigs, which is an entirely different level.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought up the show big rig, because I want to discuss that for a moment, because there are so many people, I think, on social media, especially the beginners, when they will see like the super brilliant top of the line show truck and all its beauty and all its shine and all its bling, and think that is the standard they should be shooting for. Is that true, or what's your take on that?
That is not for the guys that don't do the show rigs. That's not the standard you guys should be shooting for. That is such a in-depth and deep level.
That's like the 1%ers of the market, basically.
It really is. Actually, it's probably not even 1%. I mean, show trucks, they're so few and far between. And they are beautiful, and it's good to work on them. It's good if you get into that scene. If you've got these guys that are putting, you got to think, these guys put they put $750,000 to $1 million into a big rig, into a combo. It can run up. I've seen combos run up to 1.2 million. And beautiful rigs, very custom. But everything is custom. So if everything is custom, you have to treat that differently. That has to be treated with kid gloves.
Right.
Like big show trucks, inside and outside of all 18 wheels has to be polished.
Sure.
Sanded down, no mill lines, fully mirror polished. Every day get down the road 70-mile-an-hour truck. No, we're not doing that.
Yeah.
And also you got to think, most of the trucks that are on the road these days, those drivers, that's not a show truck. They want something to be proud of. They want a shiny truck.
They want a clean and shiny.
They want it clean and shiny. They want to be proud of it. But most of those guys are not going to be spending the kind of money that the show truckers spend to, you know, so there are different levels, and I think that's one of the questions, or or that's one of the things that, like, even me as a polisher, I would struggle with that, because there are different levels of service. You know, even detailers have, you have your base package, you have this package, then you have this package. Well, for metal polishers, it's no different. You know, I've got a customer that, you know, it brings me a truck or a bus. Well, to get a good shine, I need to do this. Well, I don't want you to do that. Just do what you can for this price.
Right.
Okay, we'll do that.
Yeah.
You know, so I mean, and that's kind of one of the things that gets lost in metal polishing, not from the polisher's perspective, but sometimes from the public's perspective. You know, again, like detailers, there are different levels. The public typically don't understand that when it comes to metal polishing. They typically will see, like, we work on this beautiful gas tanker that's fully polished and all chrome plated and all this for a show, you know, a big rig, like, and they think, well, I want my truck to look like that. Okay, this is what it's going to cost.
Sure.
To get that, this is what it's going to cost. Oh, well, don't you do that every time? No, I don't.
What,
you know,
what can you do for $9.99?
Right.
Oh.
You know, and hey, you know, the average going rate for just a daily truck these days is about $1,000. You know, depending on the condition, it could go up to, you know, $1,500. I know some guys that
for
are
bobtail, basically, for bobtail.
Yeah, for bobtail. I know guys that are charging, you know, a couple of grand on a bobtail on.
And you're touching all the metal, basically.
Yeah, you're touching everything at that point. You're touching, you know, grill shell, breathers, visor. You're even wiping down the chrome stacks with, you know, a chrome polish. Billet fifth wheels. A lot of trucks have the billet fifth wheels these days. And a lot of truckers, just like I said, they just want their truck to look good.
Just pride of ownership.
Yeah, pride of ownership. And not only that, they don't want to do it.
Sure, yeah, I'm not
And
gonna do that, yeah.
there's a lot of truckers I've found here lately are starting to understand, or at least see the value in what we do. You know, so when we give them a price, man, it's going to cost you $1,000 to do that. They go, I don't have to do it. That's fine. 'Cause they don't have to spend, you know,
all those hours.
A whole weekend.
Plus, they don't have the skill set, and that's one of the things that I get a question like, how do I do this? I'm like, first of all, if you know, my first recommendation usually when somebody asks me how do I polish this is take it to a professional.
Right.
But if you don't have the skill set, I mean, that's a, you know, I mean, it's like, you know, you learn this thing from scratch. It's like, imagine somebody having to run down to a hardware store and buy all different components and then still try, in spite of the YouTube clips that are available, still trying to, you know, seeing something and, you know, holding a grinder are two different things, honestly.
Right.
Yeah.
It's completely different.
Yeah.
And one of the cool things about this, you know, like being out here this week is, you know, I've been doing it 21 years. There's other polishers been doing it 10, 15 years. You know, I mean, there's seasoned veterans.
Sure.
There's some guys that you work with that have been doing it, you know, 30 plus years, 40 plus years. I didn't have the luxury of the internet or YouTube to learn. That being said, you know, I'm not self-taught. I don't think any of us really and truly are. Us professionals have always kind of relied on each other. We're finicky about the information we share, but we'll share a few little things. Like, I mean, well, one of your guys, Kevin, very good technique that I learned from him years ago was the art of back cutting, which we did a little bit. You'll see some of that in some of these clips that we've been doing this week. But, you know, little things like that we can pick up from, you know, each other. And I think that's one of the cool things about social media these days. It could go either way, cool, not cool, is that, you know, I can watch someone's video, another polisher's video, and I can see what he's doing. And I can almost reverse engineer it. And maybe see if I can make that work for me. You know, maybe his process is going to, you know, help me out somewhere, you know, along the way. So social media has been really good for the industry, I think.
Yeah. I think there's been a, like, and you're right, it cuts both ways. And there's a certain level of community that's been built courtesy of social media. But the flip side of it, it's not specific to the metal polishing trade. Really, I think it's endemic to the entire social media universe. It's just also just a lot of just regrettably like negative connotations that come out of it, and you kind of have to have, a thick skin. I always try to preach like, hey, let's just kind of have some civility. I may not like, as a polisher, the particular technique that Pieter has, or even his finish, but there should still be some level of community encouragement, because that's what the community is all about.
And you're absolutely right, and and I've been bad about that in the past. We all have been, but I've been bad about that.
Can we give him a wine and a cracker for this guy or something? We're confessing. We're in the confessionals.
A lot of times he'll ask me, what kind of cheese would you like with your wine? Like, really? Thanks. I remember you asking me that one time.
Can I say?
Huh?
I'm good at it.
Yeah, you are good at it. But no, I mean, I'm learning more. I'm learning to get a little bit better with that, and maybe try and loosen up,
I think education really is where I see the future of our community, and that's why you see us in the media that we do. In our focus on future media is to hopefully work with, especially the pros like yourself, in showing technique and giving the understanding necessary of like why does this happen when I pick up this tool and this product and I get this result.
Right.
Like that really is kind of we can't teach everything, you can't teach everything, but laying the groundwork, the foundation for somebody who's inclined to learn how to do it, at least those tools are out there for him or her to piece those together.
Right. And I think that's important.
Yeah.
Is doing this kind of stuff.
I want to switch to another topic now.
Oh boy.
To kind of bring us to where we are today with Almost Chrome. So Pieter had an accident here. Was it 3 months ago now?
Well, back in late April.
So it's been a few months now, earlier this year. Just briefly tell us kind of what happened in terms of tell us what happened, but also kind of frame that in terms of like advice for other polishers, like, hey, don't do what I do type of thing.
Right.
So that how that accident came about, and then we can discuss how that really kind of gave a rebirth to Almost Chrome in terms of moving towards a direction of really product sales and the development of Nashville Shine Supply for the future.
So, thank you for asking about that.
Mm-hmm.
That's been a tough one for me to kind of grasp and overcome. But so back in late April, I was a little short-handed in my shop, and I was booked. I was stacked up, and the responsible thing for me to have done would have been to maybe call some of my customers and just reschedule some things.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, we're short-staffed this week. Can we reschedule your truck? But I didn't. And I think that right there is advice number one. Nobody wants to make that phone call to their customer. They've already booked the job. They booked the job a month in advance even.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody wants to. You don't want to be the guy to make that phone call to your customer and say, hey, I can't get you in right now. I'm backed up. I had an issue. Can we reschedule? Nobody wants to make that call, but I'm going to tell you right now, make that call. That's the biggest advice I can give you. If you know that you just physically can't do the job, make the phone call. Your customer might be upset, but they will understand, and 9 times out of 10, they're going to reschedule with you anyway.
Sure. Yes.
I did not make that call. And so I got a truck in, a rather old truck, that I needed to get the tires off the wheels to put on my wheel machine. And they were old, dry-rotted tires. They would not budge. 2 of the tires just would not break off those wheels. And
dang.
I kept...
They were crusted on there, huh?
Yeah, they really were. And I was pulling and prying and doing everything I could to try and get those tires off those wheels to get this job done. And in the process, I damaged my shoulder and my elbow, my tendons, and
That's
did
on
some
your
nerve
right,
damage
on
on my
your
right
right-handed,
arm.
or
Yes, and I'm right-handed.
Yeah.
I did a severe amount of damage to my arm.
Did this impact your jerk off routine at all? Did
my
did
God,
you switch
like,
hands,
dude.
or did you get like somebody to
no,
fill in, or how
because
does that work?
I had to switch, and that's like that's
That's
playing
like-
golf at that point. You
Well,
switch to the other one, you gain a stroke, it's
you-
over too early.
Kind of, yeah. There you
Yeah.
go. So you're actually retraining the other arm.
I hate
to-
that.
Where were we, Peter?
That was a good one. You can leave that one in. I don't care.
We'll leave that one in.
Yeah, okay. No, man, it just
So how did the action actually happen? You tried you just kind of tried to lift it, or like what? Ended
no,
up-
it's just I had pry bars and I was prying on the tire to try and get it to break over the
gotcha.
wheel.
Okay.
And it just didn't. And
And something had to give, I guess.
something had to give,
and it was you.
It was my old ass that gave. So
All right. So then we went to rehab. You didn't have any surgery though, did you?
I did not have to have surgery. Luckily, I did not have to have surgery. I did 2 months, actually 3 months of physical therapy and 2 months of injections.
And for you guys
So-
and gals out there, Peter was told you will never grind again.
Yes, when it first happened, after my first MRI and X-rays, my doctor said, "Find something else to do. You're not doing this anymore." I said, "Well, that sucks." After 21 years,
21 years, just
Yeah.
like basically life-changing moment, just like
Gone.
that. Yeah.
gone. As a matter of fact, we moved out of the shop literally one day after my 21st anniversary of
Wow,
being
no
in business.
kidding. How
Yeah.
ironic.
Yep.
All right. So thank God the rehab was successful.
The rehab was successful, and I was
how successful? I mean, you're not like at 100, are you?
no,
Like, okay.
no. I was cleared to start doing my buses again, and that's mainly because of the level of impact that the equipment puts on your body. And the different angles you have to get in, for my buses, I'm at one angle, and it's almost at this point just 20 years of muscle memory.
Sure, yeah.
My body just knows it. And I'm sitting on a roller stool going around the bus. It's, nice flat panels. Whereas big rigs and even small parts, there's so many different angles and you have to move. I'm not 100%. I doubt I'll ever be 100% ever again. There's certain things that I just can't do anymore.
So are there, what parts then would you not or can't do anymore? You just shy away from now? I mean,
Mostly
the buses, you're back into the buses.
I'm back into the buses.
I've
Back into the
seen you
buses.
do some wheels, or is that my imagination? Or
No, I've been. I'm like I because I have a wheel jig now. I got rid of my wheel machine.
Right.
I really wish I hadn't, but I miss my wheel machine. But I got a wheel jig, and I do the occasional set of forged wheels.
Right, okay.
I still enjoy doing those.
But you won't do the big rig wheel, that kind of stuff. That's
No,
not
I'm still
really-
doing big rig wheels.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, big rig wheels, big rig fifth wheels. The main thing that I cannot do on a big rig would be the tanks, because of the angles that I have to hold the
Gotcha, yeah,
machinery.
yeah.
My shoulder's just not going to hold that
Right,
equipment
right.
underneath a tank
Yeah,
anymore.
100%.
And like the boxes, but look, a grill shell, breathers,
That stuff you can
wheels,
do, yeah.
billet fifth wheel, things like that for big rigs. I still do those all day long. It's the big stuff. It's the tanks, the boxes, those kind of things on a big rig. I just can't do anymore.
Gotcha. So, and that, you decided, although you had kind of been playing with it for a little while, even before your accident, but I think that kind of really pushed you in the direction of retail sales at that point.
Right.
Kind of tell us what went through your mind and, what you decided to do and what you named your company and what your focus is on that now.
Well, so NashvilleShineSupply.com.
Shameless plug.
Shameless plug. Yeah, we'd been thinking about that.
I'm sorry, what city is that in?
Memphis.
Okay.
Shithead. We'd been thinking about that for about 3 years.
Yeah.
For a while. And me and you had discussed it,
Sure.
several times, and I just never pulled the trigger on it. I never.
Because you were just too busy doing
I
your
was too
trade.
busy,
Yeah.
and that and man, I've been grinding for so many years now. I didn't want to stop. It's not that I didn't want to stop. I knew I needed to stop or slow down
You're
anyway.
like an old gladiator.
Yeah, man,
You're
I just wanted to
You want to get into the arena.
I just are you not entertained?
Yes.
I just wanted to keep going. So I just kept booking work, and I never would slow down enough to focus on it. And then, everything happens for a reason. I'm a firm believer in that. And this happened, and I had no other choice I didn't want to leave the industry.
Because you've got a great name and reputation, and very well known on the scene.
That, and I mean, I've made a lot of good connections. I've made a lot of great friends in this industry, in the bus industry, the trucking industry.
Sure.
I have a lot of people I've met over the years that
Sure,
I didn't
100%.
want to let go of that.
Yeah.
I didn't want to go back to selling tires or anything like that. I didn't want to go back to not a menial job, but a
Just
job
a whole
that
different thing, but
Yeah,
where you
I wanted to
where
stay
you
in
have
this
to
industry.
rebuild a community that you already have spent decades doing.
Right, right. I wanted to still remain in this industry
Yeah.
somehow, some way. So, that was the perfect time to start exploring, Nashville Shine Supply, and getting products like from California into the hands of people in the Southeast. Having them on my shelf and ready to go, reducing customers' wait time. You're a big manufacturer, you're a big company. You fill a lot of orders. I'm a small guy, I fill a few orders, so I can get them out to people in the Southeast. And I wanted to expand that. So that's kind of where Nashville Shine Supply really was born.
I think that's a great idea. Not only that, because I think people are, people that follow Pieter and love Pieter and respect Pieter, I think
are few and far between.
Even those few and far between, all four of them, will still be inclined to want to purchase from you. And that's the essence of really getting back to social media, the incredible impact that personal branding has in today's world, where you, as a person with a trade, not just in polishing, really in any trade, has the opportunity to leverage that, and I'll call it influence, leverage that influence for yourself in terms of some kind of a sales process.
Right.
And there's nothing wrong with that. I think that's fantastic.
And it's about, the products that I use on a daily basis that I use in my shop.
Sure.
It's about, because I get questions about that. Where can I get this? Where can I get that? Well, now you can get it from me. How about that?
From me, exactly,
by
yes.
golly, you can get it from me. I'm going to do this. So, and it's been good. It's been good. I've been kind of slow walking it, trying to, get back into the sales mode and, get the feel for it the past few months. But I really think what we're going to do, and me and you have discussed this, me and Garrett have discussed this, what we're going to do is we're really, first of the year, Nashville Shine Supply, we're going to start boosting that up and
100%,
really, make a good run at that.
Yeah.
So
my feeling as a person who spends a lot of his time on social media on behalf of the organization is, man, like, if you're going to be on social media to plug, you better be plugging, like, unabashedly plugging. I mean, it's like, don't be shy, ashamed, or embarrassed to plug your product, your brand, your knowledge, whatever you have to be offering. I mean, that's really why you're on social media. Otherwise, it's like, I could be doing something else with my time.
Right.
And if you're on social media just to consume content, enjoy it, no problem. But if you're on social media to brand and market and sell, man, you better be making that message clear.
You got to get out after it.
Yeah, you got to get out after it.
Yeah, and that's where I'm headed. This, going into 2024. We're still going to keep Almost Chrome going, of course. I'm able to do some things. This is what I love doing. I love it. I couldn't imagine doing anything
100%,
else. But for me, being almost 50 years old now, holding that machine for 20 years, it's time to find a different avenue, and let's stay in the industry. How do we do that? We go into product sales. Not just product sales, but we go into product sales and, like my pro tip videos, that I do, things like that. Coming out here, doing media clips on how-tos and things like that. That's how I stay in the industry, and that's how I stay relevant. That's what we're doing.
And that's how you stay a part of the community. And I think so many people, like, I find mentorship to be a very rewarding experience. And a lot of people don't like doing it for, it's a responsibility. It's time consuming. But I think also and, you know, and so when I say mentorship in our position, it's like kind of like a loose term, basically to make yourself and your knowledge, your skill set available to others.
Right.
I'm not saying necessarily for free. I mean, you can do a subscription like
Right.
on your Instagram account, for example, or even set up a YouTube if you want to monetize. But you know, along with Nashville Shine Supply is, I think, the next phase for Almost Chrome, along with the retail sales and Nashville Shine Supply would definitely be to, you know, to leverage those decades of
Right.
knowledge and experience and provide those resources to others in the
Right.
community.
Because I want to. I'm probably one of the few that really wants to teach, you know, or give this knowledge. I can't take it with me, you know. And I look at it like this. If, God forbid, something were to happen to me, you know, tomorrow, all of my knowledge goes with me.
That's true.
What good does that do this industry? You know, I'm not saying I know everything. I'm just saying I have, you know, from entertainer buses to big rigs to small parts to even the chrome plating process.
plating,
And,
yes.
you know, I do a lot of work with my local chrome plater. And, you know, I've learned a lot from them. You know, so having all these years of knowledge, what good does it do anybody if I don't share it?
That's right.
That's the thing. So I'm here, you know, I'm here to make that known that, you know, there's availability to have this knowledge out there.
And people do remember the educators. I mean,
Yeah.
That's legacy.
Right.
All right, Peter. Well, I'm going to give you the final comment or question or words. I want to thank you for joining us on this podcast, of course, but definitely for coming out this week.
Yeah. No.
We
Hey.
had a great time. We learned a bunch of great things together, great community building, great camaraderie, and we're looking forward to definitely doing it again
Yeah,
over
no,
the next
I'm-
couple, 3 months.
Yeah. We get back out here. I'm looking forward to it. Like, I mean, this is, like I said, you know, we talked last night a little bit, touched on it. You know, this has been such a
been a
different
fun time.
trip.
It's
You
been
know,
a
I've been
fun
out
time,
here
yeah.
several times, you know, to visit and do some of these things. I don't know. This one feels a whole lot different.
Appreciate that positive
Yeah.
feedback, and thank everybody. Stay tuned.
Yeah.
We'll do some more.